This will be the basic structure of my program on queues. There will be three user-defined functions: insert function to insert elements into the queue, del function to delete elements from the queue, and display function to display elements of the queue. And all these three functions will be called from the main function. Here I've declared the insert function, and this function will be used to insert elements into the queue, and this function takes an argument of type int. This del function will be used to delete elements of the queue, and the return type of this function is int, so this function should return an integer value. This display function will be used to display elements of the queue. Here I have declared an array named queue, and the size of this array is 5 because the value of max here is 5, and this hash defined max 5, this max is also called symbolic constant. Now I have initialized the value of front equal to -1 and the value of rear equal to -1. This is because initially I want my queue to be in this state. Now I am going to create the main function. Now this while one loop is important because it will not allow this program to terminate on its own. This will make more sense to you at the end when you will run the complete program. Try running this program at the end with and without this while one loop, and you will realize what I am talking about. If you will run this program without this while one loop, then this program will run only once and then will get terminated. Now these print statements will just display a message to the user that enter your choice. 1 means to insert element into the queue, 2 means to delete element from the queue, 3 means to display elements, and 4 means to exit. This scanf statement will allow the user to enter a choice through keyboard, and the valid choices can only be 1, 2, 3 or 4. Anything other than 1, 2, 3 or 4 will be invalid. And this switch statement will know what choice the user has entered, and it will execute an appropriate case based on the choice entered by the user. Now this printf statement will ask the user to enter a number to be inserted into the queue, and this scanf statement will allow the user to enter that number through the keyboard. Here I am calling the insert function with the number to be inserted into the queue. This insert function takes an argument of type int. this break statement will terminate this switch statement. After executing this case 1, we will come out of this switch statement with the help of this break statement. I am calling the delete function, and this delete function is of type int, so this function should return an integer value, and whatever value this delete function will return will be assigned to this num. I am calling the display function, and this display function will be used to display the elements of the queue. So if the user enters 1 as a choice, then this case 1 should get executed. If the user enters 2 as a choice, then this case 2 should get executed. If the user enters 3 as a choice, then this case 3 should get executed. And if the user enters 4 as a choice, then this case 4 should get executed, and this case 4 is exit. So this exit statement will terminate this program. No point having this break statement after this exit statement, because this exit statement is going to terminate this program and break statement will never get executed. Now the default case. Now the valid choices in this program are 1, 2, 3 or 4. Anything other than 1, 2, 3 or 4 will be invalid. Now let's say the user enters 5, which is an invalid choice. So in that case, this default case should be executed, and the user should be shown a message that you have entered an invalid choice. This is the end of the switch statement. This is the end of the while one loop, and this is the end of the main program. There's one mistake in this program. This should be CONIO. Now I have completed the main program, and now I am going to define or create this insert function to insert elements into the queue. This insert function takes an argument of type int, and when this function insert will be called, then the value of this num will be assigned to this element. And before trying to insert new element into the queue, we need to check if the queue is full, because if the queue will be full, then it will not be possible to insert new elements into the queue, and a message should be shown that the queue is full and you can't insert any new elements into the queue. So with this if statement, we can check if the queue is full or not. If rear equal to max minus 1, then printf so this if statement will check is the value of rear equal to the value of max minus 1, and if this condition becomes true, then this printf statement will be executed and queue is full will be printed on the screen. Now suppose the size of the queue is 5, then this queue will be full when the value of rear will be equal to 4. So in this case, the value of rear is 4, and the value of max minus 1 will also be 4, because the value of max is 5, so 5 minus 1 equals to 4. So this condition becomes true value of rear is 4 and value of max minus 1 is also 4, so this means that the queue is full. Now this if statement means that if the value of front is equal to minus 1, then the value of front should be made equal to 0. This if statement will be true only initially during the first insertion, because initially the value of front is always equal to minus 1, and from minus 1 the value of front should be made equal to 0 during the first insertion. So let's say if I insert a new element into this queue, then that element will be the first element to get inserted, and in that case from minus 1 front should be made equal to 0. I insert 15 into the queue. This only happens during the first insertion. First time when an element is inserted into the queue, the value of front from minus 1 is made equal to 0. Now these two statements will be responsible for inserting an element into the queue. Now first this statement will get executed, and after this statement should get executed. Now when an element is inserted into the queue, then first the value of rear is incremented by 1, so rear equals to rear plus 1. The value of rear at this moment is minus 1, so minus 1 plus 1 equals to 0. Rear becomes equal to 0, and the new element will be inserted at this position. Suppose the value of this variable element is 10, so 10 will get inserted at this position, which is 0. And during the first insertion, as I have already told you, the value of front from minus 1 will become equal to 0. Now again I want to insert another element into the queue, then again the value of rear will be incremented by 1. The value of rear is 0, so 0 plus 1 equals to 1. Rear becomes equal to 1, and a new element will be inserted here. Suppose the value of this variable element is 20, so 20 will get inserted at this position, which is 1. Now again I am going to insert another element into this queue. Again the value of rear will be incremented by 1. The value of rear is 1, so 1 plus 1 equals to 2. Rear becomes equal to 2, and a new element will be inserted at this position. Suppose the value of this variable element is 120, so 120 will get inserted here. So this is how elements are. I need to put a return statement here. This return statement will terminate this function. If this if statement is true, then this printf statement should get executed. Queue is full will be printed, and with the help of this return statement we should come out of this function. So this is the end of the insert function. Now let me explain you how this insert function will be executed. Now if the user enters 1 as a choice, then this case 1 should get executed. A message should be printed, enter a number to be inserted, This scanf statement will allow the user to enter a number through keyboard. Now let's say the user enters 10 as the number. This insert function will be called with the number to be inserted into the queue. The control will be transferred here. Whatever will be the value of this variable num will be assigned to this element. Suppose the value of this variable num is 10, so in that case 10 will be assigned to this element. The value of this element will become 10. This if statement will check if the queue is full or not. If the queue will be full, then this if statement will be true, and this printf statement will print queue is full, and this return statement will terminate this function. We will come out of this insert function with the help of this return statement. If the value of front will be equal to -1, then the value of front will be made equal to 0. Now this if statement will only be true initially during the first insertion, because initially during the first insertion the value of front will always be equal to -1, and that time the value of front will be made equal to 0. Then to insert elements into the queue, first the value of rear will be incremented by 1, and then the element will be inserted into the queue from the rear. Suppose the value of this variable element is 10, then 10 will get inserted into the queue from the rear. Now I am going to create or define this del function, and this del function is going to delete elements from the queue, and this function is of type int. Now before trying to delete elements from the queue, we need to check if the queue is empty, because if the queue will be empty and the user tries to delete elements from the queue, then a message should be displayed to the user that the queue is empty and you can't delete anything from an empty queue. So this if statement is going to check if the queue is empty. Now a queue can be empty if the value of front is equal to -1, or if the value of front is equal to rear plus 1. This is an OR operator, so if either one of these two conditions become true, then that would mean that the queue is empty. Now initially the value of front will always be equal to -1. Initially the value of front will always be equal to -1, and when the value of front is equal to -1, then that simply means that the queue is empty. Now if the value of front will be equal to rear plus 1, then in this case also the queue will be empty. Now suppose there are some elements in the queue 10, 15 and 25. The value of rear at this point will be equal to 2, and the value of front will be equal to 0. Now if I delete an element from this queue, then this 10 will get deleted, because elements in the queue are always deleted from the front. And when an element is deleted from the queue, then the value of front is incremented by 1. so front equals to front plus 1. The value of front at this point is 0, so 0 plus 1 equals to 1. Front becomes equal to 1, and this element gets deleted. Now if I delete another element from this queue, then this 15 will get deleted. The value of front at this point is 1, so 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. Front becomes equal to 2, and this 15 gets deleted. Now again, if I delete another element from this queue, then this 25 will get deleted and this queue will become empty. So let's see, the value of front is 2, so 2 plus 1 is equal to 3. Now front becomes equal to 3 and this element gets deleted. Now let's check this condition. The value of front at this point is equal to 3 and the value of rear is equal to 2. So 2 plus 1 is equal to 3. So this condition becomes true. The value of front is equal to rear plus 1, and when the value of front is equal to rear plus 1, as you can see here, then in this case the queue is always empty. Now let's check this condition. The value of front is equal to 3 and the value of rear at this point is equal to 2. So 2 plus 1 is equal to 3. Both are equal to 3, so this condition becomes true. The value of front is equal to rear plus 1, and whenever the value of front will be equal to rear plus 1, then the queue will always be empty, as you can see in this case. So if any one of these two conditions become true, then this printf statement will be executed, queue is empty will be printed on the screen, and with the help of this return statement we will come out of this del function. Here I've just declared a variable named element of type int, and this variable element will store the number or element which will be deleted from the queue. Now an element in the queue is always deleted from the front. So if I delete an element from this queue, then this 15 will get deleted. Now the value of front is equal to 1 and the value inside the queue at this position is 15, so this means 15 should be assigned to this element, so this element will just store the number which will be deleted from the queue. So this statement will be responsible for deleting an element from the queue, and when an element is deleted from the queue, the value of front is incremented by 1. Now the value of front at this point is 0, so 0 plus 1 equals to 1. Value of front becomes equal to 1 and this element gets deleted. Now again, if I want to delete another element from the queue, then again the value of front will be incremented by 1. The value of front at this point is 1, so 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. Front becomes equal to 2 and this element gets deleted. Again, if I delete another element from the queue, then again the value of front will be incremented. The value of front becomes 3. Front becomes equal to 3 and this element gets deleted. So this is how elements are deleted from the queue. This printf statement will just print the number which has been deleted from the queue. This function del is of type int, so I return element. So this is the end of the del function. Now let's see how this function will work. If the user enters 2 as the choice, then this case 2 should get executed. This del function will be called, the control will be transferred here. This if statement will check if the queue is empty. If any one of these two statements will be true, then it would mean that the queue is empty, and queue is empty will be printed. With the help of this return statement, we will come out of this del function. Now if this if condition becomes false, or if the queue is not empty, then these statements will get executed. This variable element will be assigned the number which will be deleted from the queue, and an element in the queue is always deleted from the front. This statement will be responsible for deleting an element from the queue. When an element is deleted from the queue, the value of front is incremented by 1. This printf statement will just print the value which has been deleted from the queue, and this return statement will just return an integer value which is the number which has been deleted from the queue. Now I am going to create this display function, and this display function is going to display the elements of the queue. Now in this display function, first we need to check if the queue is empty, because if the queue will be empty and we try to display elements from the queue, then a message should be printed on the screen that the queue is empty and you can't display any elements from an empty queue. Now this code is going to display the elements of the queue. Now let me show you how this for loop will work. Now let's say I want to display the elements from this queue. The value of front in this queue is equal to 1 and the value of rear is equal to 3. First, I will be initialized with the value of front. The value of front is equal to 1, so initially the value of I will become 1 in this case. This statement will check is the value of I less than or equal to rear. The value of I is 1, the value of rear is equal to 3, so this statement becomes true. The value of I is less than the value of rear, so this printf statement will be executed. Value of I is 1 and the value inside the queue at this position is 10, so 10 will be printed. Now this statement will get executed. The value of I will be incremented by 1, so from 1 the value of I will become equal to 2. This statement will check is the value of I less than or equal to the value of rear. The value of I is 2 and the value of rear is 3, so this statement becomes true. This printf statement will be executed. Value of I is 2 and the value at this position is 15, so 15 will be printed. Then again the value of I will be incremented by 1, so from 2 the value of I will become 3. This statement will check is the value of I less than or equal to rear? The value of I is equal to rear, so this statement becomes true. This printf statement will be executed and this 25 will be printed. So this is how this for loop will work, and the elements of the queue will be displayed. So this is the end of the display function, and with this I end this program on queues. Now I am going to run this program. Now I enter 1 as the choice. So this case 1 gets executed. Enter a number to be inserted is printed. This scanf statement allows me to enter a number. I enter 10 as the number to be inserted into the queue. This insert function is called with the argument num, and the value of num is 10, which I just entered using the keyboard. When this insert function is called, the control transfers to this statement or to this insert function. The value of this variable element is 10. This if statement checks if the queue is full. Now in this case the queue is not full, so this if statement becomes false. The control goes to this statement. This if statement checks if the value of front is equal to -1. This if condition becomes true because initially the value of front is always equal to -1. As you can see in this case, the value of front is equal to -1 during the first insertion. This is the first insertion, so the value of front from -1 is made equal to 0. Now with these two statements, an element is inserted into the queue, and I just entered 10 into the queue. Now I want to insert another element into the queue. This time I insert 20. So this insert function is called with the argument num. The value of num is 20, which I just entered using the keyboard. This if statement checks if the queue is full or not. The queue is not full, so this if condition becomes false. Then this if condition is checked if the value of front is equal to -1. The value of front is not equal to -1, the value of front is equal to 0, so this if condition also becomes false, and these two statements are executed, and with the help of these two statements a new element is inserted into the queue, and I just inserted 20 into the queue. Now I am going to insert some more elements into this queue. So now you can see that I have inserted 5 elements into this queue, and the size of this queue is 5. So now this queue is full. This is the state of the queue right now. The queue is full. Now let me display the elements of this queue. 3 means display. So these are the elements of the queue, and there are 5 elements in this queue: 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50. So this queue is now full. Now if I try to insert another element into this queue, then queue is full should be printed. So this queue is full, and now I'll try to insert a new element into this queue. 1 means insert. I try to insert 90 into this queue. Queue is full is displayed on the screen. So when this insert function was called, then this if statement checked if the queue is full or not. Now clearly in this case the queue was full, so this if condition became true. Queue is full got printed on the screen, and with the help of this return statement I came out of this insert function. So I inserted 3 elements into the queue, 5, 10 and 15, and this is the state of the queue right now. Now let me delete some elements from this queue. So 2 means delete, 5 has been deleted, the value of front right now is equal to 1. Now if I delete another element from this queue, then this 10 will get deleted. 10 has been deleted, the value of front is equal to 2. This 10 is deleted. Now if I delete another element from this queue, then this 15 will get deleted and this queue will become empty. So 15 has been deleted, the value of front right now is equal to 3. Now if I try to delete another element from this queue, then queue is empty should be printed on the screen, because this is clearly the case of front equal to rear plus 1. The value of front right now is 3 and the value of rear is 2. 2 plus 1 equals to 3. So this condition becomes true. And if this condition becomes true, then it means that the queue is empty. So this queue is empty. Now I am going to delete another element from this queue. So I entered 2 as the choice, and queue is empty is printed. So this is how a queue is implemented using an array. So this is the end of this video, and thanks for watching.